Okay, so I just got home and I logged on to YouTube and I realized that I had quite a few more subscribers than I did like an hour ago when I ran out to get some pizza. And I saw that and I was like, what just happened? And I soon realized the reason for this. I would really like to thank Kal-El Prime for his awesome shout out in his latest video. I know this is gonna sound like a nerd out thing, and I don't care. Kal-El Prime is by far like my favorite Transformers reviewer on the internet right now. So to get a shout out from him was it's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I totally doubt that anybody who watches me isn't subscribed to him. But if for some like weird reason you're not, go subscribe to him right now. You will not be disappointed. He's awesome. Like I said, he's my favorite reviewer online right now. So, yeah, thanks. That's so cool. So thank you so much. Oh, and in case anybody cared, Frenzy is this month's Transformer. I love having the one that tears people to shreds as the one that is the month for my birthday. Great. Back to business. Today, I obviously will not be reviewing All Hail Megatron because I'm all caught up in that series, but I will be reviewing Spotlight Jazz, which came out on Wednesday, yesterday. For anyone who didn't know, I love Jazz, so I was very excited to read this, and I'm actually not quite sure how I feel about it yet, so maybe I'll decide by the end of the review. I'm not quite sure. First of all, the cover I have here is done by Andrew Griffith, and I actually really like this cover a lot. It's pretty dynamic. Not my favorite Spotlight cover ever, but I do like it. And this issue was written by Josh Von Rake. I apologize, I suck at names, and Sean Noller. And the art is done by E.G. Sue, which I'm pretty excited about. I know some people aren't really E.G. Sue fans, but I'm a fan of E.G. Sue quite a bit. Now, this issue seems to take place definitely near the beginning of All Hail Megatron, either right before or kind of in the beginning where it was just Megatron and the Decepticons, those couple of issues. Either way, we can tell this because, one, it's the Autobots still stuck on Cybertron. They're all not looking good, so it was definitely before Cup's team arrived. And they're all pretty angry about the fact that they're stuck there. So it seems like it's kind of right after they get stuck on Cybertron. The issue starts off, and Cliffjumper is punching a wall, and he's talking about how the Decepticons are probably laughing at them somewhere. And so Cliffjumper and Bumblebee start getting into an argument, and Bumblebee's like, dude, the wall never did anything to you. And so they have kind of this dumb argument, and then Trax comes out and he stops them. And Cliffjumper, who I have to say, I'm starting to really like Cliffjumper. IDW is making me really like Cliffjumper quite a bit. But then Trax comes out and has them stop, and Cliffjumper makes a funny little comment about, you know, what do you know about anything, Commander Wax and Buff, which is hilarious. And, you know, Cliffjumper asks Trax, now when did you ever get your hands dirty? And Trax says, I'll tell you. So then we go into what this issue really is, and it's Trax telling this war story. So Trax starts off his story, and he's saying that it was his first combat mission, and his entire unit had been taken out by the Decepticons. He's the only survivor. And he's trying to find some help, but his optics are damaged, so he can't really do anything. And Jazz shows up and is like, here, I'll help you. And of course, we have to remember throughout this entire issue that Trax can't really see, so he doesn't know who this is, and Jazz never says, hey, I'm Jazz. I'm like the coolest person ever, you should just know that. Jazz just says that he's an Autobot, and he's a friend, he's gonna, you know, he's coming to rescue Trax. And so Jazz kind of radios to his other teammates, and they say they're coming to pick up, you know, him and Trax. and right as they're coming to get there, they're blown out of the sky and they're all killed. So that sucks. So Jazz is obviously, besides the fact that his entire team was just killed, he's pretty, collected about what just happened, and asks Trax if he can transform, and he's like, no, and Trax starts going on and on about all the reasons that he can't transform, and even if he could, he can't see, and Jazz is like, okay, stop. Okay, we're gonna walk. I understand that. And as they start walking to somewhere, they are being spied on by the Predacons, which is very cool. See, can you see that? Yeah, okay. It seems like the Predacons have been tracking Jazz for a while. We're not quite sure why, but they have been. And once they get there, Jazz says, well, we need a plan, to bite back when the Decepticons come after us again. And of course Trax is like, whoa, we don't have anything to do that with. And Jazz actually takes out his auxiliary energon reservoir, which we see he can only not have that in him for 30 cycles. So Jazz has a limited amount of time for whatever he's planning to do to work. And if it doesn't, it's not looking good for him, or definitely not for Trax. And as they're kind of setting up for what they're going to do, the Predacons find them. And Trax asks, well, do you have a plan? And he's like, of course I do. And Jazz tells Trax that he is going to basically be the bait. And of course Trax is like, what? That is ridiculous. I cannot do that. You're asking way too much of me. I can't fight off the Predacons. They're the Predacons. And Jazz is like, you have to trust me about this. But so as the Predacons are kind of, trying to tease Trax and Jazz out, Trax kind of stumbles out and he says, you guys are just Terracon rejects, which is hilarious. And they're like, ah, you can't say that, we're gonna kill you. But as they're going to attack Trax, Jazz comes out of nowhere and just takes out Tantrum. I mean, he snaps his neck and, breaks his arm and then, slashes him with his own sword. So Tantrum is very dead at this point. So this obviously really makes the Predacons kind of mad. But Jazz gets away and takes Trax with him. And it's funny because as they're escaping, they also take out Headstrong and Rampage. So that leaves only 2 Predacons left. So they get away, and they're basically just hiding behind this rock. And, Jazz asks, how are you doing, man? And Trax just goes off with how much his life is just awful and how his situation sucks. And he's like, there's nothing to fight for anymore. Anyone who's died has died for nothing. And he's going on, and Jazz is like, enough. This is enough. You are not allowed to say things like that anymore. And Jazz says, we both have friends who gave their sparks for our safety and for the mission of the Autobots. And he's like, you can't say that we're not fighting for anything. And as Trax is quoting something else that Jazz said, which is, we don't give up, we don't lose hope, we realize that as Trax is telling this story, he's getting quite a following. Everyone's kind of gathering around for story time at this point. And then after that, Trax asks, well, then what are we going to do now? And Jazz says, well, we're not going to do anything. I'm going to go out there and give you as much time as you can to start walking away and getting away from here as fast as you can. And all of a sudden, Trax has this amazing feeling of what it truly means to be an Autobot. He's like, it's about putting yourself on the line and, working for your teammates. And so obviously having that feeling gives him the magical power of, even though he's damaged, being able to transform again. And he transforms and he actually takes out Dive Bomb. But after that, he has knocked himself offline. So he says, the next part I can only imagine what happened. And we then get this awesome 2-page spread of Jazz fighting Razor Claw. It is very cool. But on the next page, even though Jazz isn't losing horribly, we realize that he is running out of time before he goes into stasis lock because he doesn't have his, reserve energy on him.